Systems engaged. Frequencies synchronized. Prepare for incoming transmission. Coming to you from somewhere in the multiverse, this is Robots from Tomorrow. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, and as always your podcatcher of choice. For the full archive featuring over 800 episodes of comics and comics-friendly content like interviews, book discussions, and freeform tomfoolery, please go to robotsfromtomorrow.net. Here is your host, Greg.
Hello and welcome to Robots from Tomorrow. My name is Greg. Thanks for joining me. Today's episode is the second of 5 weekly episodes coming out every Thursday between now and October 2nd. After that, the show will be on a bi-weekly Thursday schedule going forward. Now, last week, I talked with cartoonist Rick Parker about his OGN drafted. Today, we have Avery Hill co-publisher Ricky Miller. Next Thursday, September 18th, is another Shelfbound episode. This one has DC3 caster and friend of the show Brian Salvatore talking with me about Crisis on Infinite Earths. Then on September 25th, we have Michel Fife and I sending off his band of mercenary misfits in style with the Copra's Last Round panel from this year's Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. Finally, October 2nd has the lettering panel from the 2024 Heroes Con that included Rick Parker, John Workman, Kevin Nolan, and Steve Oliff. After that, the robots and I have plans for some Bat stuff, some X stuff, some Samurai Rabbitry, maybe a League of Justice thrown in there. Good times. But for now, just 2 days before this year's SPX, where Avery Miller will be exhibiting and showing off all the books you will be hearing about momentarily, here's my talk with Avery Hill co-publisher Ricky Miller. There's an ecosystem to comics publishing, like anything else. You've got your Marvel and DC, your big two on one end of things, your single cartoonist stapling their first minizines that they ran 20 copies of off their printer at their day jobs on the other, and many points in between. And it's one of those intermediate options, Avery Hill Publishing out of South London, England, that is the focus of today's show. Going back to the earlier example, Avery Hill is probably much closer to the cartoonists than the corporations. And this makes sense when you look at their output. On their website, the publisher described itself as helping aspiring creators reach their potential, and a home to the geniuses that the mainstream has yet to recognize. Our canon includes psychogeographical mappings, eco-anarchist wizards, boat-shaped coffins, an all-female non-binary construction crew, in space, a bad canine named Greasy, and much more. Avery Hill has positioned itself to be an option for up-and-coming creators, a model that has worked for them with many cartoonists, including Tillie Walden, who published the first works of an Ignatz and Eisner-lauded career at Avery Hill almost 10 years ago. To find out more about Avery Hill's place in the comics landscape, what that landscape looks like for them in 2025 and beyond, and to talk about their latest release, Kit Anderson's sci-fi graphic novel Second Shift, just out last month, is Avery Hill co-publisher Ricky Miller. Ricky, how you doing?
Hey Greg, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. You and Dave White, your co-publisher, have known each other for many years now. I'm assuming there was some early bonding over shared comic tastes.
Yeah, definitely. So we've known each other since school, since we're 11, basically. And yeah, we were kind of like parallel for a while in terms of, he was in a different class. We were the same year, but different classes. It was partly music, but mostly comics. We both used to go to the same comic shop called The Edge of Forever back in the day and have our pull lists there. I think our first proper shared one was Cerebus. That was probably the one that we both got into at the same time. So around about, I don't know, 15 or 16 or something like that, when you feel like you're very grown up by reading something like Cerebus. And and kind of expand it around like all those kind of great self-publishers at the time who somehow used to make decent money and be able to put out hundreds of thousands of copies of books and things. So like Terry Moore and Jeff Smith and Colin Duran and obviously the Hernandez brothers, all those great people who were making special comics and just doing it on their own terms, and had the philosophy, and it was that whole ethos of creator owned, creator controlled, and that's kind of always stuck with us. It was seminal in how we think about all this kind of thing. So yeah, and to digress, like that, Dave Sim did a guide to self-publishing.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever read it, but
I have.
I mean, obviously the man has a lot of problems, but he wrote the Bible on it. He wrote some of the most important sentences ever in terms of self-publishing and how I think about creator control and creator ownership. So yeah, and then it was that kind of time as well when Image were just starting. Those guys who were kind of influenced by that and took on that ethos until they started hiring a lot of work for hire people.
Yeah.
And not actually
But
drawing or writing comics anymore.
Was there,
yeah, the beginning, the very beginning, probably the first issue of all those books was a great statement, to the extent where, like, yeah, Dave Sim wrote an issue of Spawn, didn't he?
He did.
It was
maybe the best issue of Spawn. Really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, considering Noah some good company there, he did write a great issue of Spawn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've taken us far away from where we were.
No. Those are all things that we have talked about on the show at some point or another. So it's not a tangent. It's more of just a reminder of how interconnected all of these things can be. Yeah. I'm thinking that's probably around 95.
Yeah, probably 93, 92, 93.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about that Image stuff. I was thinking about the big Spirits of Independence tour, where it was like Colleen Durant, Charles Vest, Jeff Smith, and like a bunch of other people. So really kind of a heady time for that sort of indie publishing. Was that before Bone got published by Image for a little bit?
Yeah, it was before, when it was a Cartoon Books was his company or something like that. Yeah, apparently Dave Sim used to hire limousines for them all and stuff. There was money around.
yeah, it's because I got a bunch of Cerebus is 2/3 of a great comic. And going back, and some of those earlier issues are interesting, not just for the stories, but also the back matter and the water cooler comics industry talk sort of around that time. And then him having pictures of this convention, and they're through a particular lens. And he wanted to say, look, I'm an independent creator and I'm a rock star, but he kind of was for a while there.
Yeah, and obviously his Blur Oasis thing with Fantagraphics was Gary's gruff war, essentially. It was always entertaining as well.
Yeah. So you're reading comics, you're getting infused with this spirit of independence. How did you go from reading them to publishing them?
Well, there's a 15-year gap in between those things happening. Like a lot of people, we both pretty much stopped reading comics when we turned about 17, 18. Because, well, a lack of money, going to university, there were other things going on. It was just, well, mid-90s, terrible time for the industry anyway, for a lot of stuff we were reading. So yeah, went to uni, came back, got jobs, moved in. We shared a house together. And we formed a band, so we started doing music together. Then we did a music podcast together with another one of our friends, Michael. I shouldn't leave him out of the story, actually, who we also went to school with. And then Dave got the idea that he wanted to make a zine. He found the internet to transient, like we were doing a music blog as well as a podcast, so he just thought the internet just like chucking stuff out into the ether sometimes, as you well know. He wanted to make a zine, so he created a zine called Tiny Dancing. And for the first issue, he asked a few of our friends to contribute. I decided to write and draw a comic, which is something I hadn't done for 20 years. So I created something called Metroland, which we later continued with. And Michael did a comic. And other than that, it was like lots of arts and humor things. Our friend Stephen Horry, who later got published by Image, did a comic for it as well. So that was like the first issue. And then we found other contributors, people like Tim Bird, Owen Pomeroy, who, again, later we published. And we kind of all realized that we weren't very good at what we were doing, but they were good. So we decided, I suggested we set up a publishing company to publish people, because maybe we'd be better at that than writing and drawing. And Dave and Michael were like, why would people get published by us? And I was like, well, because we pay for the print costs. And they were like, but we don't know anything. So, well, neither do they. It's fine. We'll figure it out. We moved the comics out of Tiny Dancing and started the comics anthology and kept Tiny Dancing for the artsy human stuff. We started a comics anthology called Reads. That meant we had to find more people. We got involved in the scene a lot more, went to all the comic shops to try and get the books into comic shops, and did lots more shows, met lots of people at the shows. The first thing we published that was entirely not by us was Tim Baird's first comic, and then the comic by Owen Pomeroy. And then basically just kind of grew from there, really. After a while, we decided maybe we'll try and do books. We had like 1 year where we did a few graphic novels and spent too much on them and printed too many copies because we didn't have distribution or anything. So it was silly, but you don't know, do you?
Yeah.
And then until you do it. And then at that point, you're figuring out, that's how you then try and sell it. So you get a web store, or you kind of do all this other stuff. And then basically then I started looking online for new creators and found Tillie Walden on Twitter. And I emailed her and said, I really like that image you put up and a couple of other images on social media. Would you like to do a comic? And she was like, I didn't know anything about her at the time. And she was like, yeah, I would love to, but I'm still at school. So I don't feel I could do it at the moment. I was like, oh, you're 17. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So probably not then. And then I just kept thinking about that. And a year later, I emailed her again and just said, what about now? And she was going to comic college, essentially. So she was like, yeah, I'd love to do one. That happened. And we did 2 books with her at the end of summer. I Love This Part, as you mentioned. And then basically the first one kind of blew up in terms of industry in that we released it at LCAF, which was the East London Comic Art Festival, which was like the arty one. Nobrow used to run it, basically. So if you know Nobrow, it was that kind of thing. There was Annie Koyama and Gillian Tamaki and Michael the Forge, and they all came over and bought her comic from us because they were all like talking to each other going, have you seen this? Like, this girl's amazing. And then she did I Love This Part with us, which is the one that kind of blew up and got Eisner nominated. And we had people email us going, you need to look after this comic. This is like a special comic. And I was like, oh, now we have to take this seriously. This is proper. This is not the thing where you get drunk, sleep under the table the rest of the day. We need to do it proper. At that point, we got introduced to a distributor who liked Tillie's work. We got US distribution, we got UK distribution, and it just kind of went on from there, really.
Yeah, snowballing, I think, is the
exactly,
term. The way that Avery Hill describes itself is that you're looking for people that could use a boost to get them up and running with the understanding that they'll go on and do other things beyond Avery Hill. Is it hard to run a business where the better you are at your job, the harder it is to keep talent, I guess? Or do you even think of them as yours?
No, we definitely, I mean, you say you don't, but obviously there's part of it where you do.
Right.
But it's kind of, it's double-edged in that maybe you lose that creator, but as a business model, so say Zoe Thorogood or Tillie, who are creators we did the first books by, and both sold extraordinarily well for our kind of level. I mean, like, we were selling thousands of copies of these books, which is definitely enough to be sniffed about, especially from a UK point of view. So then they go on to another publisher and sell tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, however many they do. But the knock-on of that is we then get in the slipstream of that, in terms of our book. We keep that in print, and instead you've got first, second, building up Tillie's profile, and people are going, oh, well, what else has this girl done? And then they come and buy our book. So it's part of that business model. We're very happy if a big publisher wants to come along, as long as it's the right publisher, and we think they're doing well for them. But we've got certain creators who, if they do 2 or 3 books with us, we're like, please, big publisher, come and pick them up because they need it. Like, there's only so much we can do for them at this point. Like, there's a ceiling we can't break through. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think I can tell you this. One of our creators who we've been publishing for years, they're amazing. And like, we're definitely, like, the following is building up, and we're selling probably 10,000 copies or something of their latest book. But you're still thinking, why hasn't this one of these really big publishers come along? And then they do, and you're like, oh, but I would like to have done that book.
Yeah.
It is a trade-off. And then I think partly the only times it annoys me is if they don't get the creator and they push them down alleys where I don't necessarily think they should have gone. Same time it bothers me because then I just think about the books they could have made if they had stayed cool and indie like us.
Cool. Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic. And I think it speaks well to Avery Hill that, you have creators who have worked with you and have been published by other publishers, but they're still part of the Avery Hill family.
Yeah, we're very clear with them on that. We always say to them, look, definitely go to this publisher and do this big book. But if you ever have a short personal book that maybe you're doing middle grade books and you go, oh, I really want to do something like I used to do, then just come back and we'll do whatever you want. You can put out that book that you don't think will sell any copies, and we'll sell enough copies cheaply to make the money on it, but also it will get out there. It will satisfy that creative urge, and then you can go back and do ones that you're going to get 6-figure advances for or 5-figure advances for.
Yeah,
as well.
You're like, the bridge is still there. It's not burned. It's open.
Yeah, exactly. You can use a pen name if you want. It's fine.
Thinking about Avery Hill and where it is at the publishing level, in terms of competition, friendly or otherwise, with other publishers of what my brain has labeled the SPX crowd. You and maybe Fanta is probably higher on that rung, but like you, maybe Silver Sprocket, Pow Pow Press, that sort of thing. You're all looking at the same pool of creators and stuff. What's it like having other outfits? What's it like being a publisher of Avery Hill size in the comics landscape at this particular time? If that's even a question.
Yeah, I totally see what you mean. We don't really feel rivalry with them. There probably is, but not massively. We don't go after the same creators. I think the fact that we're in the UK probably just geographically, we are fishing generally, and do publish quite a few US creators, but generally there'll be ones that aren't on anybody's radar. And they've come to us for a reason. It will be because they just don't fit that kind of arty, cool aesthetic, maybe in the same way. Not that we don't do those books, but we don't do it quite the way that Fanta or Silver Sprocket do. We're a bit cozier, I think, and we're not edgy in terms of how we present ourselves. Some of the books are, but not how we present ourselves as a company. And yeah, it is interesting. Like I don't know if you was reading the Comics Journal article a little while ago, the Publishers Roundtable, which we participated in. Gary Groff was in that, and he was kind of saying even their books, most of them, apart from the hits, have a ceiling of like 2,000 copies that they sell, and most of our books will hit that. I mean, some don't, but most will, and then a lot will exceed that. So it's interesting to know that across the board, even the bigger publishers have similar problems to us in terms of the ceilings that they get. Obviously, they have much higher ceilings on their big hit books. But yeah, like that. I mean, they are the ones we identify with, I think, and D&Q as well. They're probably the biggest of all those, I would imagine, in terms of their sales. We used to definitely look to Koyama and D&Q, maybe the Canadian ones even more than the US ones, I guess, were the ones we would admire and how they did things. I think there's just so many great creators that none of us put out enough books to where we get to a point where we're fighting over creators, really. Because, like, I mean, and part of it is that from an ego point of view, I think all of us like to discover somebody. None of us wants to publish somebody that the other one's published already, generally. Yeah. I mean, to do with us, but that's because they're a level above, so that's fine.
Yeah, everyone sort of has their own little territory and they're friendly to each other, but it's like,
I mean, it's always great to chat with them because, like, everyone's got a different perspective on things.
So Kickstarter is part of your business model. What was it like running your first Kickstarter campaign? What was the thing where you were like, oh, this is something we can use to help us publish?
Yeah, we avoided it for a long time just because it took us a while to kind of get our heads around it, because we didn't ever want to be in a position where we said to a creator, if this doesn't fund, then we're not going to put your book out. That would be terrible. It's like, I don't understand how anyone could do that. I don't think many publishers genuinely actually use it like that. We treat it more like a pre-order kind of thing. So we have very achievable targets, and we just kind of saw it as another tool in the armory. Like, I spoke to a couple of UK publishers, like someone who used to work at Unbound, who their business model was crowdfunding, and just said, are we leaving money on the table, or are these the people who will buy our books anyway? And they were like, no, you're definitely leaving money on the table by not doing Kickstarters because of the audience that exists in Kickstarter itself, who wouldn't necessarily find our books otherwise. That was kind of a big push. If you want to expand your audience, that is definitely a good way to do it. So that was definitely one of the key things that made us think about that. Every one of them is difficult. It works out fairly expensive. You always get the shipping costs on top of all that, and reducing all the items and things. And I think you end up losing about 9% in Kickstarter fees and bank fees. Most of them just kind of tick over. The only one we've had that really blew up was Pomeran's one for the hard switch, where I think we did like £45,000 or something. We would never sell that in pre-orders for our shop or even through the distributors. Like, that was just like amazing that one took off. So when they take off, it's definitely worth it. That helped us out. That one was definitely worth it.
In terms of your operation, like on a day-to-day level at Avery Hill headquarters, how big are you guys? What sort of ship do you guys run?
Yeah, so we're still very much a hobby, an out-of-control hobby. Yeah, me and Dave both got day jobs. We do Avery Hill in our spare time, which now I have 3 children is not much.
There went that.
Yeah. So shows are kind of hard to get to, especially as my wife works weekends. So getting any time off on weekends is very hard. We very much rely on the staff now. So I think we've got 5 people who work for us on a contracting basis, kind of part-time. The main one's Katrina Chapman, who is a comics artist herself. We've done 2 books by her, Follow Me In and Breakwater. She heads up our marketing and production side of things. So she's the one who kind of liaises with all the printers and puts the PDFs together and makes everything look nice, and looks after the marketing side of things, and just lots of other stuff. At the moment, we're working on a big exhibition coming out in a gallery in October. At the moment, she's absolutely swamped with that. We've got Gina Galliano, who comics industry people know very well. She used to be head of marketing at First Second, and she used to be in charge at Penguin Random House of their graphic novel line. And so I know her through Tillie, and just going to shows, we would tend to grab a coffee or something. And then as soon as I heard she was going freelance, I thought she's perfect for helping us break into some of the areas, especially the US side of things, because we don't have anyone out there. So she's been really keen helping us develop the library market, and just someone I can say, how does this work? What does this mean? Who's this person? She knows everybody. She's amazing to have on the team. And then, we have a couple of people doing newsletters and social media, and a bookkeeper, which is probably the most important thing ever that I've ever done. Getting a bookkeeper.
Yeah, because there's always this interesting bifurcation of people who are interested in creative things and practical things, and you can either go one or the other, and making sure that you've got the practical side so that you can keep doing the creative side, that can be tough.
Yeah, I'm kind of lucky in that I work in the finance industry, and the day job is spreadsheets and things, so I definitely can bring that along. It's just the whole extent of how much work that is. So I used to do it, but now it's like, oh, no.
Yeah. Avery Hill, let's say like the last 12 or 13 years, in terms of actively looking for talent, keeping your finger on the pulse of things, how has that changed from now versus pre-COVID or even further back? Like, the internet's been there, but has it become easier? Has it become harder? Plus, of course, you mentioned being over in the UK. I guess from my perspective, you're over in the UK. For you, you're like, well, you guys are over in the, you guys are over in the States. Maybe talk a little bit more about how that process has gotten easier by the internet or harder because of the way the internet has taken turns and stuff?
Yeah, it's definitely harder. Before we would use Twitter quite significant. Like that's how I found Sci-Fi and Tillie Walden and George Wildsall and all those people. But now that's impossible, obviously. That's one, and it just doesn't work. It's just broken. Yeah. They broke it. I don't use social media at all other than to check up on a creator that I've heard of. So I'll hear of them through a different way and then kind of obviously go on their Instagram. Basically, that's kind of the only way I use social media now, because just discovering anything on social media is impossible, in my opinion. I mean, maybe there is another website, which I just don't know about, that is really easy. But yeah. So, I mean, we have a lot more people approach us than we used to. We have agents to come to us now and creators. But most of the time, we don't tend to pick people up that way. It tends to be in shows, I guess. Like if we do a show, or if I go to a show, I will go to every table, or at least kind of scan every table, have a quick look around and see if I can find anyone of interest. And there's websites like Broken Frontier do what we do in terms of trying to find new creators, but in a more community and journalism kind of way. We used to find a lot of stuff through zines and small press books and things, but that's not what it was either. That whole kind of cheap self-publishing thing. You have to spend like £10 or something now on some Riso printed thing and decide if you want to take that chance. Whereas before, everyone used to do like photocopy £1 zines and things that you could get in a spinner rack at our local comic shop, and now that just isn't there anymore. Everyone thinks high print values are the way to do it, but I disagree. If anyone's listening, I disagree. Just get it out there cheap.
Yeah.
You're not going to make money on it if you make it expensive anyway. So get it out there cheap and achieve what you want to like that. But so I tend to do it in bursts, especially recently. I'll make a big list of all the creators I've been thinking of, and then I will just kind of approach them and say, do you have any books you want to make? Generally, I'll end up signing like 8 at the same time, which will sort us out for a year or something, just because I've left it so long and procrastinated and gone through a period of having to edit and publish loads of books at the same time, and then go, I never want to do another book. And then I'll try not to do it for ages and then go, oh God, I need to do another book. I need loads more books, otherwise we're not going to have anything to put out. And then, I just literally just signed about six or seven recently in the last few months. So one came from an agent, others were just a couple of submissions from people we knew. Other than that, it was people I'd been thinking about for a long time, maybe a couple of years or something, who I'd been keeping an eye on, decided they were ready. It's also kind of hard now as well, just because of the way we work, in that we have to sell more copies of books than we used to. So it changes it. Like before, you could just go, oh, I need to sell 200 copies of this, and that's fine. And now when you're trying to pay people, and everyone has much higher expectations of signing for Avery Hill than they did when it was just Dave and Ricky in the pub.
Victim of your own success a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, or perceived success, I guess, to a certain extent as well. Because everyone just kind of thinks that we're a much bigger operation than we actually are. When
you have a headquarters and a building and everything. You're like, well, I have a day job.
You're currently looking at my headquarters.
Well, it works. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Let's talk about one creator in particular. Let's transition. I was going to say shift, but I'm not going to do that pun twice. Kit Anderson.
Well, especially not for a second time.
Yeah. Second shift. Oh, funny. Kit Anderson.
Yes.
How did she get into the Avery Hill orbit?
So, Kit, I actually met a long time ago at the Center for Cartoon Studies. I think I did a portfolio review for her, or at least I was on something like that. One of those open day type things that Center for Cartoon Studies does when they're practicing pitches or portfolio reviews. I can't remember which one it was, because it was like 6 years ago or something. And I think Tillie had been a tutor because Tillie teaches at Centre for Cartoon Studies now. And I remember talking about her to Tillie at the time and both saying, yeah, she's great, like really good. And then I think she approached us. And did she just, I think then she got an agent just as she approached us. And then she sent us a couple of ideas for things that she wanted to do. And then, yeah, we said, yes, we like the idea of a collection of short stories, but also we want to do your first proper graphic novel as well. We'll do the first one if you give us the second one, which is very, like, I can't think of many other occasions or any other occasions when we've done a 2-book deal. It's like very rare, just mostly because we don't want to force a creator to commit to that. And we can really think about it as most of the time. But with this one, it was like, yeah, I like the short stories, but it will only really make sense if we also did your first book. So yeah, that was how that all happened. And she liked us and we're a good fit, basically.
I forgot to write this in my notes. Was Safer Places the first graphic novel?
So that came out a year before.
Okay, so then Second Shift is her
second. So yeah, so Safer Places was the collection.
Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to go back and read Safer Places yet, but I did read Second Shift, and it is very, very good. I have a particular soft spot, although I don't read as much of it as I would like to, of not only science fiction, but science fiction comics with a wiggle. And I talked about this on the show way back when, at least once, what, you know, like comic science fiction of a certain era, you're thinking John Byrne, Kirby, Mecha, but then you start getting into indie creators doing these sort of things. So I'm thinking like Francois Vigneault's Titan, obviously Tillie Walden's On a Sunbeam, and Second Shift falls right into that category. It is definitely science fiction, but it's using science fiction to talk about things that we are dealing with right now. How did she pitch this book?
Very much like that. She sent me the plot. She sent me a couple of ideas, actually. And I kind of went back and said, I feel like these could both be the same book, really. Like we should push a couple of elements of it together and do this one. I'm like you in the sense that, yeah, kind of in indie, lo-fi, alternative sci-fi is definitely where I am. I was thinking about this the other day, and sci-fi is probably the only genre type thing where it piques my interest straight away, where I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter about the plot to a certain extent. I'm just interested if it's sci-fi. If it's horror and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, it'd have to be, I don't care what genre it is. Like, if it's a good book, it's a good book. But with sci-fi, I'm always more inclined to root for it and hope it's going to be good. That tends to get me on side. And then Kit's influences are kind of stuff that I like as well. She's into like Russian sci-fi, like Roadside Picnic and Solaris, and all those grimy, cool sci-fi books where everything's a little grim, everything's a bit weird. It's kind of psychological as much as anything. It's a sci-fi setting, but it's not got the tropes of, not that I don't, you can see my Star Wars mug here. Like, I'm quite happy with a bit of a space fantasy as well. But so that was something that me and Kit bond over. We really like all that stuff.
Yeah. I did not do this up at the top, and I probably should have. Can you give us the elevator pitch for Second Shift?
Yeah. Can only give an elevator pitch for Second Shift. I'm about 10 books down the line for Second Shift.
Okay, you're like, it just came out, and you're like, dude, I've had to move on to like other books beyond other books for this. I mean, so I would say our main character, Birdie, she is a worker on an outpost that processes asteroids or
comets.
Comets. She is an employee of TerraCore, which has the wonderful, and I say wonderful in quotes, slogan, TerraCore for life, life for TerraCore, which is frightening, but awesome. I think in some ways, the two scariest letters in the English language are CR when they're put right next to a word or something, where it's like something, copyright. And just having that little symbol there, because occasionally in the graphic novel, Kit will have these one-page, not ads, but reminders of TerraCore things in a very digital looking thing. And you get this thing of like, TerraCore, blah, 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 copyright. It creeped me out. And so she's there having to perform this job of maintaining these things to help with the terraforming of this place. And She's alone, but she has a manifestation of the station's AI sort of there as a companion, and she has another companion there. And so it's a very muted existence that then becomes less muted. And like you said, there's psychological things going on. It's very human, very worker-focused sci-fi human experience. The things she's having to do are science fictional, and there is a science fiction germ of an idea there, but what she's going through with the feelings that she's having and the feelings that she's dealing with and being in this, I would say, employment situation really helped ground it in a way that very quickly, you know, who she is, what she's dealing with. It's science fiction, but you don't have to take much of a leap to feel what she's going through. Is that
Yeah, no,
hopefully?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good. I'm right back there now. Thanks for
Okay.
the description. I'm back in it now. I can remember. And Kit's such a safe pair of hands to take you into that kind of world as well, because she's thought about everything, like literally
Hmm.
the stuff we were taking out. She'd be like, "Oh, all this." I'd kind of ask her a question, like she would just kind of state something in the comic, and I'd ask her a question, and she'd tell me this massive backstory about everything that went on with it. And that it's kind of all the idea that corporations basically test humans on Earth for determination of what career they should have and whether or not they'd be any good for terraforming and all that kind of thing. The fact that Birdie is comfortable in that world and almost needs that kind of structure around her, and is that just because of who she is, or the kind of humans that get created in this environment? There's lots of interesting stuff going on there. Like I said, there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of information behind it, which is kind of why we brought in all the training manual stuff, because I was like, Kit, you need to explain some of this stuff. It's brilliant, but it was fairly obscure.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she started defining it. I was like, literally, what's this mean? What's this? And yeah, so she came up with that kind of mechanism as a good way to kind of explain some of the theory, some of the psychology behind it, and some of the world building that she created, and try and keep it organic and not too much like characters talking and stating things that they should just assume knowledge of from other characters and things. So yeah, it's definitely a book with a lot of thought that's gone into.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. So that type of back and forth with somebody bringing a book idea to you, you going back and forth with them, is that typical with how hands-on or hands-off Avery Hill is with your creators?
It depends who it is, really, and what they want. We kind of say at the outset that we're happy for the creator to essentially create their own process and to use us or not use us as and when they want. Especially in the early days, I would kind of feel a bit phony calling myself an editor, because I had no editorial training, and I knew as much as basically the creator did. I guess I was kind of like an educated reader, giving an opinion. That's it. Essentially, now I've done this quite a lot. For some very good people, you learn a lot from all the creators you work with as you go. Certain creators probably had a lot of editorial input, but others, I might not see the book until it's finished, and then it's almost proofreading and stuff, and you feel like you've done all the work up front with it, and the process changes each time. When you kind of click with a creator, it is like very satisfying to help and contribute as much as possible. Tillie was always great to work with in that way. Like, we would have a really close relationship when we were creating the books, and yeah, Zoe probably was much more kind of script level. I kind of helped to structure that book quite a lot. Like I said, with others, not so much. Yeah, especially when it comes to the art side, you know much more than I do on this. I can probably point out if something looks a bit off, but most of the choices I believe to you to make. I've worked as a freelance editor before with people who wanted a lot more editing. It was like, you do thumbnail edits, script edits, and then change panels on every page. That's too much. The creators should decide it should just be them. It's their book, which is kind of how what I always say. I never really call them edits. I call them suggestions. It's your book.
Yeah.
If you think what I'm saying makes it better, then do it. If you don't.
Okay, so home stretch here. 2025, we are at about the midway point of that. What does Avery Hill's 2025, maybe 2026, what do we have coming up? What do you want people to know?
Okay, so we got The Witch's Egg by Donya Todd, which is the book that we just finished a Kickstarter for. It's kind of an extraordinary book. Donya is one of those creators that, we kind of worked with on an anthology 10 years ago, I guess. And then she had a kid and stopped making comics, did some freelance editorial stuff, but all the time we just like, Donya, when are you going to do your graphic novel? When are you going to do a graphic novel? Finally, a couple of years ago, she agreed. She was like, yep, kid's ready. I can do it. Yeah, her stuff is amazing. I mean, that is much more in the kind of, fantagraphics-y, Silver Sprocket kind of fantasy about a witch and a demon who kind of get together and have kids, and it gets very, very dark from there. And then we've got a totally other end of the spectrum, Who Killed Nessie by Paul Cornell and Rachel Smith. We love Rachel. This is our fourth book with Rachel. I was very excited to work with Paul Cornell because I'm a big Doctor Who fan and I loved his Captain Britain run. I'm a big Captain Britain fan, and that was definitely one of my favorite Captain Britain comics, and all the other stuff he's done as well. He's great, really nice guy. So that's very cool to chat with him about that and Doctor Who and things. That wasn't why we did the book, but it helped.
There's a nice little side benefit there. Yeah, Paul Cornell was not a name that I was expecting to see up in a Avery Hill thing. One, because he's a writer, but two, I was like, yeah, he did Captain Britain and stuff. And then it's like the two of them on a Loch Ness Monster thing. I'm like, ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable and fun and funny. I definitely recommend that. Let me just get my schedule up, actually. So
okay. So I went from scrolling through Second Shift to now I'm scrolling through the front page of your website and stuff. So I was looking at,
I haven't looked at that website for a long time.
Well, yeah.
Let me know if you spot any mistakes.
Like Acid Box is a very, wow,
so
that cover jumps right out.
That's fun. It's kind of about 90s rave culture, but with time travel and sci-fi and things like that. And then we got The Chorus Wave by Corinza Sparks. She's very much in the old style Avery Hill, and a new creator kind of we found actually that, do you know Shortbox Comics Fair?
Yes.
So I should say that is a great place to find new creators, because that's run by a Zainab Akhtar, who
Yeah.
And basically it's just all digital online comics fair. She finds amazing creators all over the world, but Corinza's comics I really enjoyed. We got in touch with her and she's got a first book out with us. And then after that, so 2026, we've got books by Alex Potts, who we've published before. We've got the second Infinite Wheat Paste book. Yeah. We've got a adaptation of Orlando, Virginia Woolf's Orlando. We've got the second of this. I'll give you this one. So the second Hard Switch book, which we haven't actually announced yet, but so we announced that now. And the final book from the Izmir series by B. Muir, and The Last Changeling by Rebecca Dunlap, who hasn't done anything since she did a graphic novel for Youth in Decline back in the day. That's exciting as well. That's most of what we've got coming up.
You mentioned going to shows. In terms of actually being able to go to shows 2025, 26, what's on your itinerary? Either you or Avery Hill.
Yeah, so we've got Thought Bubble, which is the big UK one in Harrogate, that linked into the big gallery exhibition we've got, which is a very big gallery. They got funding to put on a comic show, and because we've got a good relationship with Thought Bubble, they teamed up and suggested us. So we're doing an Avery Hill retrospective. Lots of amazing original art on display. George Wallace designed an interactive game for it. So lots of Tillie Walden art from On a Sunbeam and various other books, and Zoe Thorogood art, Owen Pomeroy art. Lots of very, very nice stuff that everyone's going to get to see, and it's going to be there for a few months as well. So that is massive and very exciting. we're going to be at SPX. Gina's doing that for us. And I'm not actually sure which other ones we've got, because I know Gina's doing a couple. I think she might be going to Mice, and we've kind of got creators going to a lot of different ones, actually, because we managed to get some funding to send some creators out to Short Run and some other places. So, yeah, Avery Hill is going to be represented at quite a few shows over the next year or so. That's definitely good.
Well, that was Ricky Miller and Avery Hill Publishing. Like I said at the top of the show, Avery Hill will have a table at SPX this coming Saturday and Sunday, September 13th and 14th. If you're able to do so, I highly recommend going to the show. They are always a blast of pure comic book energy. As I said last week, I will also be at SPX this weekend, so if you happen to recognize my voice above the din and the clatter, please feel free to say hello. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Next week will be DC Crisis Time with Brian Salvatore, talking about the granddaddy of them all, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Please feel free to like, subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you are given the opportunity to do so. It really does help robots get out there, and everyone here in this little pocket universe would greatly appreciate it. So, till we meet again, my name is Greg. Stay safe, keep enjoying those funny books, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening. Systems disengaged.